Hi guys, welcome to Twin Perspective. I'm Joe.
James.
And tonight we are going to be presenting our top 50 movies of the 80s, part yeah. And that is number 25 through number 1. Go back if you haven't seen the first one. 50 through 26, plus we had some honorable mentions. That one ran about an hour and a half. We'll see what we can do with this one. These are the best movies of the 80s, all genres included.
Favorites mixed in with 80s appeal. Some of the top 50 80s or top 50 horror movies on our list. Yeah, I have some movies that are higher on this list than they are on that list. It just depends.
Right. It all depends on the list.
Yeah, it depends. We're talking 80s. I get a good 80s feel with these top 25 movies.
I'm also factoring in how good the movies are. You know, that's just a thing I like to do.
You're going to love my number 25.
So there's no way that Grease 2 would be higher than Blue Velvet in that regard. Hey, that's the only one I've been really perplexed. That one and Escape from New York.
It perplexes you?
Perplexes me.
Yes. The movie I have at number 25 is higher than Blue Velvet.
Do you want to go first?
I am first.
Okay.
Flash! Flash Gordon is higher than Blue Velvet.
Okay.
That is just an ultimate 80s movie. You watched it 100 times. If you don't know what it's about, a football player gets stuck in a rocket with a news reporter and a scientist crazy man, and they fly off to another distant planet where Ming the Merciless, played by Max von Sydow, is controlling the Earth and is crushing it and sending the sun towards it. And he's got mere seconds to save it. It's like irreversible. No, nothing happened. 1 second to go. I think it would have been close enough to where everybody would have been melted, but
Yeah.
we never actually go to Earth.
Yeah, we never go back to Earth.
Damn. I failed. Soundtrack by Queen. Flash Gordon, number 20. Is that in your list? On your list?
No, it isn't, even though it was an awesome movie.
Wow.
Definitely emblematic of the 80s.
I can see we ranked these kind of weird. Differently. We're differently abled. What's your number 25?
My number 25 is Steven Spielberg's E.T., the Extraterrestrial. Now, I'm giving this movie props because it was a great movie. Definitely an 80s icon. It's not one of my favorite movies, nor is it one of my favorite Spielberg movies even. But this is on my list. It's just like Big from last video. Some movies are just too good to leave off the list. And if you haven't seen E.T., then you need to see it because it's a great alien movie if you're a kid. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about E.T. Like I said, I'm acknowledging it because of its brilliance.
An alien lands on our planet and he tries to go home.
Right.
And he's a sweetheart.
And the kid learns about sacrifice and love and whatever. All right, what's your number 24?
David Lynch's Dune.
Ooh.
That's not on your top 25, is
It's
it?
not on my list. Dune did not make it.
Yeah. A friend of mine came over and said, man, you should see this movie, but you got to see it on acid. It's like the Bible. So we're standing in line at Blockbuster with the movie in our hand, and things started breathing a little bit on their own, and I kind of looked at them like, oh, shit, it's kicking in already. We ain't even got the movie. And then we went home and watched it. That's why it's higher on my list. Because Duke Paul Atreides.
It was good.
And the Harkonnens.
You didn't know nothing about the novel or anything.
I knew it was long and tedious, and it's not my jam.
Right.
Space opera is not my jam.
Right.
But it had a bunch of David Lynchians in it.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
I
It
love
was
that
trippy.
movie. That movie's awesome. That movie's a classic. It's a cult classic.
They got a new version coming out soon, if you want to date this video.
Oh, yeah, for goodness sake. I mean, the books, and I don't think anyone's going to get it 100% right. So I'd rather have a good director do something interesting with it. So
The spice must flow.
that's your number 24.
He who controls the spice controls the universe.
Kenneth McMillan is the shit in that. My number 24 is... My number 24 is A Christmas Story.
You'll
I
shoot your eye out.
think that's one of the best movies ever made. It's one of the best Christmas movies. It is the best Christmas movie ever. I guess we're all used to seeing it play 500 times on Christmas on TBS or TNT or whatever. And I don't know. I think it's funny. I think it offers a lot. I think it was the best movie of the year it came out, actually.
Wow.
And it's a classic, so
Bob Clark.
obviously a great movie. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
From the director of Black Christmas and Porky's comes A Christmas Story. That's just a fun fact. You'll shoot your eye out.
Okay, what's your number 23?
Christmas Story did not make my list. It's in the top 100. Number 23. Spaceballs.
Oh dear, there goes the time.
Oh shit, there goes the planet. Spaceballs is a send-up of Star Wars. George Lucas gave Mel Brooks permission, but he could not sell merchandise. So they wrote that in the script. Merchandise.
Spaceballs, the flamethrower. The kids will love this one.
May the Schwartz be with you. And it's a send-up on Star Wars. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. It's like Rick Moranis is like tour de force. Who knew we'd only have like 10 Rick Moranis movies? Although I did see Streets of Fire the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a hell of all up in that movie.
I saw Spaceballs at the movies. Oh yeah, I went to the theater to see that. Mel Brooks. Oh my goodness, I wasn't gonna miss that mess.
Right, I was a little older. I wish I was a little younger when it came out.
Yeah, me too.
Because like the John Hurt scene, oh no, not again. And I thought, man, they must have paid a pretty penny to Alien to borrow that. I was thinking too much by then. But we ain't found shit. Poop and fart jokes will always be funny.
Are we taking this too literal? What's that? 23, right? My number 23 is nowhere near your list, and it's True Stories.
No. No.
Written and directed by David Byrne of Talking Heads. It's an awesome story about a traveler who...
I'm going to have a schmuck in the pan.
a traveler who visits a town and learns about the small town festivals and what they like to do. And it's an examination of America. And it's brilliantly portrayed. It reminded me a lot of just something whack different like Monty Python or something. It was just... I thought it was... and still is one of the underappreciated films ever. It's a musical, and if you guys haven't watched it, or if you've only seen it once or twice, go back and watch it again. It's great, and I'm gonna stick by it. True Stories is my number 23.
Didn't make my list.
With John Goodman and, of course, David Byrne, Swoozie Kurtz. Okay, so what's your number 22?
All big Ticket sellers right there. Throw in a musical and you got yourself a winner. Wow, wow, life.
Yeah, the actual video to Wow Wow Life is a scene from the movie. They were doing karaoke.
Number 22. From the Files of Police Squad. Naked Gun. Naked Gun is number 22. Yes, it's above Spaceballs. Because it is Leslie Nielsen. It is Abrams Zucker Abrams. who will appear later on this list. That's like Frank Drebin, one of the greatest heroes ever in celluloid history. And O.J. Simpson. It was so much fun at the club, dropping a screen and having him step in paint and get shot and everything at the beginning of the movie, because he was going through the trial at the time in real life. And so he just dropped the screen and, what is the verdict? Guilty. Instead of kill him. He puts his foot in a bear trap and leans on wet paint, face in a pie. The movie's classic. It's classic. It defines 80s too.
Mm-hmm. Did not make my list.
Damn.
Nope. My number 22 did not make your list. And it is my highest rated John Hughes film. She's Having a Baby.
I do love that movie though.
That is a great movie with Elizabeth Perkins.
Yeah.
And Kevin Bacon.
Bacon.
And written and directed by John Hughes, and more of an adult film than most of the films he had done. It's got a great soundtrack. There's a lot of imagery in it that he didn't use. Not a lot. He did use a lot, but in She's Having a Baby, it's almost like a trip where the main character hallucinates a lot of scenarios, which I really liked.
I'm pregnant.
Right. Or when the chick from the dance club shows up in his house. Right. And then the wife walks through. You're having a dream, wake up. And then the ending is really, really sad and awesome at the same time. So that's my favorite John Hughes movie.
It should be on my list.
It should be on everyone's list. It doesn't get any credit between The Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller. But She's Having a Baby. That's my number 22. What is your number 21?
She's having a baby. That one's the one instead of St. Elmo's Fire, if you want to go that route. Sugar. As far as age, that would be next in line. Young adults getting married and having a baby. Having her parents sit at the foot of the bed and instruct him on how he's doing it wrong. If he was doing it right, we'd be grandparents.
You got the little mining headlights on.
The lights are on.
Shining right on a mother having sex.
Get your hips up.
It's very funny. There's a lot of that in it.
Yeah, it's John Hughes too.
It's a clever screenplay.
It's clever. Where are we at? 21.
21.
Beverly Hills Cop. We talked about it already.
I ain't falling for no banana in the tailpipe.
Judge Reinhold, yeah. We talked about it in the last video. A Detroit detective comes to Beverly Hills to solve the murder of his friend. And it's slapstick action goodness with Eddie Murphy. Yep. And the second one is even... I really like the second one.
Me too. The second one was great too.
But nothing like an original. And the music, I'm just sitting here doing the neutron dance. Boom, 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 boom. Harold Faltermeyer and all. We talked about that one in the last video, though.
Yeah, it's the classic quintessential 80s action comedy.
It's one of those years that the Academy failed to recognize great lead actors because Eddie Murphy was not nominated Best Actor that year. And he should have won. He should have been nominated. And in my opinion, he should have won. Go back and watch that video, too. You'll see what I'm talking about. That's some fucked up shit.
All right. My number 21.
They were selling cocaine in the coffee. It was hiding in the coffee.
Yeah, we learned about that back then. My number 21 you mentioned already. Joel Schumacher's St. Elmo's Fire. Which I put ahead of She's Having a Baby.
You watched it more.
St. Elmo's Fire is so fun and awesome and brilliant, and it's like a Brat Pack movie. They just got a little bit older, and it's so neat to watch all these idiots right out of college trying to find their place in life. Like half of them get fired from every job they're in, and half of them are high on drugs or drunks, and it's interesting.
Fluff and fold.
I understand the fluff, but what's the fold? I understand the fold, but what's the fluff? Fluff's what I write for the newspaper. Boogala, boogala, boogala. That movie's great. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's classic. I love it. I love the dynamic. The only thing that rubbed me the wrong way was there's no way in hell that Judd Nelson and Andrew McCarthy and what's her name?
Ali Sheedy
would have been getting along like that. I thought I was the love of your life, but I thought I was the love of your life. Fuck you, motherfucker.
I love you both.
Yeah. Oh, God. You love us both.
To the moon.
Okay. There's more than one hole here. I mean, that's what she was doing. But anyway, it didn't feel like it ended good because Rob Lowe was leaving and he was a fuck up. Seemed like they all bailed him out. And like I said, none of them really stayed together. They wouldn't even go on to St. Elmo's bar after it.
Yeah. What we call ours La Casas.
So everybody was growing up, and that was basically the moral. But anyway, check it out. It's awesome. St. Elmo's Fire. That's my number 21.
I'm like Billy. Get a boner now.
Get back in the Jeep and assume the missionary position. What is your number 20?
My number 20 is the brilliant horror comedy classic from the mind of H.P. Lovecraft, Stuart Gordon's Reanimator, starring Jeffrey Combs as Dr. Herbert West. Overdose! Who is working on a serum that can bring back the dead. And it's got side effects. And he was at the Miskatonic. No, now he's at the Miskatonic. And that's in Massachusetts, I think. And yep, he shoots up a couple of corpses, ends up having to bring his roommate's girlfriend back to life, daddy back to life, and the other doctor, and his head. It's a lot of gore and a lot of phantasmagoric. There's oral sex.
Between a corpse and a woman. The great Barbara Crampton. Yeah, Reanimator's in my top 50 80s horror movies, no doubt.
But it didn't make your...
No.
No.
I keep citing for all these dramas. Reanimator was really a comedy horror because it is funny throughout. It's pretty absurd, but it's classic.
Dr. Herbert West got a good head on his shoulders and one on his desk. It's good.
My number 20 is Batman, which you mentioned in the last video.
Shameful of me.
So Michael Keaton, of course, the best Batman, Bruce Wayne.
Two greatest actors ever.
Yeah, really. Jack Nicholson, killing it. Danny Elfman, great music. Kim Basinger. And that's it. We don't really need to talk about Batman. I think it's a classic It's the one all the others that will ever be made will be compared to, and then everybody will be like, well, which one do you like the best, you know? Michael Keaton's the best, and that Batman movie is pretty damn awesome. Doesn't get much better than that. I think it was a perfect blend of the dark that you want and also the comic book element that you want. So,
All right. They took it out of Tim's hands, gave it to Joel. He screwed it up with popcorniness.
big time.
And then they make Christopher Nolan out to be the King of Kings when Tim Burton was way ahead of that back then with Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Grossly underrated Batman Returns,
Yeah.
which is a 90s film.
Mm-hmm.
They should have just left it alone, left Tim alone. We could have had a Christopher Walken.
Yeah, and don't get me started on this Batman versus Superman bullshit. Jesus Christ.
I love the Batman.
Okay, so what's your number 19?
My number 19 is, yeah! What's in the damn head?
The Return of the Living Dead.
The Return of the Living Dead, directed by Dan O'Bannon.
Dan O'Bannon.
Written by Dan O'Bannon.
And that's of Alien fame.
That's right. Dan O'Bannon also wrote Life Force. He was given the keys to the car to direct this movie. They couldn't get a director. And they just had fun with it. They used a lot of stock footage.
Really?
It's like they get stock footage of a helicopter. Ooh, make it look like we can afford a helicopter.
Hey, that is one of the best horror movies of the 80s, no doubt.
The first zombie movie where they ran hauled ass after you. Though it really wasn't that far to go. They were in a cemetery. They had a mortuary in the back.
Yeah.
Guys working there. They accidentally released this chemical that brings all the dead animals and half dogs and butterflies pinned to the wall to life, and a corpse. And then they burn the body pieces. They burn the corpse. That's the only way they could stop it. I hit it in the damn brain. Didn't work. They chopped them up and threw them in an incendiary, and then the smoke went out, and then it rained, and then zombies everywhere because there was a cemetery there.
The Living Dead. And they were talking, and they wanted specifically brains.
Brains, first one, only one, really.
Yep. And it's a popular trope now.
Brains.
And then them running was just out of this world.
Hey, you really never got someone bitten that got infected and then turned into a zombie. The only two humans that turned into zombies were infected by the gas itself.
Sort of. The chick that danced naked was eaten by a bunch of old
Oh, that's
men.
true. Yeah.
She was dead later, but she died. I mean, they all come back to life when she died.
She wanted to be eaten alive. Yeah.
And they could talk, you know. Send more cops.
Send more paramedics. Is this on your list?
It's not on my list
Damn.
of top 50 movies of the 80s. It's definitely on my top 50 horror movies of the 80s.
When I think of the 80s, I think of Return of the Living Dead. Great punk soundtrack. The Living Dead. Surfing Nazis and shit.
Good choice. My number 19 is one you mentioned already, The Terminator. It's number 19 on my list. It's a great classic, of course, 80s genre defining, and Arnold and Linda Hamilton, and awesome movie.
I'll be back.
Yeah, part 2 was a different kind of movie, just like Aliens was different from Alien. It exists that same way. The Terminators. It's almost a horror movie because he's going around killing a bunch of people. But I don't know, it's sci-fi. But anyway, The Terminator. That's my number 19. What's your number 18?
Lying along. Caddyshack.
Wow, that's not on my list.
Damn. You're going to get your top 50 with this video right here because we haven't repeated each other yet.
Don't worry about me.
Now, thank goodness it wasn't a movie about the caddies, which it started out. They had Bill Murray for a week, and what they were able to get on film by him and Chevy Chase, and what they were getting out of Rodney Dangerfield, because they didn't know what they were going to get, ended up being a a movie about
Those guys.
Those
instead of
guys.
the caddies.
and Ted Knight.
Right.
You know, it's just great performances. All it's totally 80s. You get a little bit of nudity, so I was age appropriate. Harold Ramis didn't care. He didn't know how to make a movie, and it was probably for the best because it's kind of all over the place. And I like it better than Blues Brothers because Blues Brothers was more structured. That's neither here nor there. Is Blues Brothers on your list?
No.
It's in my top 60. Caddyshack. It's about golf. No, it's not. I feel like I should explain what these movies are if in case you've never seen them. But Caddyshack's a comedy, and it's the best supporting actor comedic performance ever by Rodney Dangerfield. Last time I saw a mouth like that, it had a hook in it. So go and watch it and laugh and enjoy. Duty.
I don't know what the big deal is.
Duty.
My number 18 is a movie you mentioned already. One of my favorite comedies of all time. History of the World, Part 1. Mel Brooks breaking down the history of the world. They got up to the Roman Empire and they never made a Part 2. It was classic though. Funny. What's her name? Madeline Kahn. Just awesome. Dom DeLuise, funny as shit. Mel Brooks. And Gregory Hines had a big part in the Roman Empire. And it's funny and it's quotable, and not a lot of people talk about that one when they talk about Mel Brooks. But it's always been one of my favorites of his.
King jumps queen.
Everyone jumped the queen.
It's good to be the king.
Hump or death? Hump death, hump death, hump death, hump death.
Hump. You look like the piss boy.
Oh, you look like a bucket of shit. Okay. That was my number 18. What's your number 17?
Learn a little bit about history. Watch History of the World. The Inquisition.
What a show.
The Inquisition.
Here we go. We know you're wishing that we go away. But the Inquisition's here and it's here to
Stay. Number 17. And now for something completely different. John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, number 17?
Number 17. Pretty close?
No. As a matter of fact, I quit.
Oh, you can't quit now. It's on. It made the list.
Yeah. Great movie.
It's a research team in Antarctica. They come across the Thing. A spaceship, actually. It was like the Thing from outer space.
Mm-hmm.
And it could make itself look just like you. And after a while, nobody knows who's who. Follow it. We talked about this movie in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. 80s horror movies.
Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, T.K. Carter,
Yep. Keith David.
Keith David, and what's his face?
What's his name? I don't know the
A bunch of men. If there were any women, it was the dogs.
Wilford Brimley.
That's the second name I said.
Okay. So the Thing is much higher up on my list. My number 17 is a movie you already mentioned from last video, and that is I wonder. A Fish Called Wanda.
Asshole!
And we talked about that one before. Kevin Kline is incredible in it. Don't touch him. He's mine.
Don't call me stupid.
I love your ass. Oh, man. That movie's phenomenal. John Cleese is great. And Yeah, Michael Palin's
Peacock.
great.
Peacock called Hotel. Peacock called Hotel.
And Jamie Lee Curtis is stunning. So if you haven't seen A Fish Called Wanda, you're missing out because that's one of the best movies of the 80s by far. So we say.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, what's your number 16?
You mentioned it in the last video. When Harry Met Sally. Directed by Rob Reiner. Written by Nora Ephron. Billy Crystal. Meg Ryan. Carrie Fisher. And Ruben Blades. No, not Ruben Blades. Paul Rubens. No. I never can get his name right. Bruno Kirby.
Oh,
Bruno Kirby. R.I.P. R.I.P. Carrie. R.I.P. Bruno. Damn.
yep, that's one of the best romantic comedies ever, but it's definitely a favorite of yours over mine because it was pretty low on my list.
I'll never want that wagon wheel coffee table. Don't say a word. You made a woman meow? That's what I'm talking about. I can tell her things like this. You made a woman meow? You just got to be Billy Crystal, look like Billy Crystal, and know that you can make a woman meow. You've got it in you, man. Just no means no, but other than that, you can make a woman meow. Believe in yourself. Take a run and start. You might scrape the bottom. Right.
My number 16, and I don't know if you've mentioned it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Dong 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 dong.
No, I didn't.
Is it close?
No. Not really.
9 to 5. Directed by
Colin Higgins.
That's right. A great black comedy about working for an asshole, not getting paid enough, and wishing that motherfucker would just up and die in some gruesome, fitting way. And then
Because he deserves it.
because he's a
No good,
sexist,
egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot. You know the kind.
Mhm. And then events happen which
Well, you have to get stoned first just to get over the fact that you need the 2-joint martini weekend.
events happen where the 3 co-workers have to break the law a few times in order to keep this asshole from spreading lies or misinformation.
Man,
And it's an awesome movie, and I love the way it ends because everybody gets their due. And Dabney Coleman brilliantly plays the boss.
yeah, he does.
And of course, the 3 leads are Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, and Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton won the Academy Award that year.
Right out the gate, first performance ever, nailed it.
And Dabney Coleman should have been nominated, and Lily Tomlin should have been nominated, no doubt.
Hell yeah.
So that's my number 16, 9 to 5. What's your number 15?
Turn you from a rooster to a hen with one shot. Oh, I'm going to make a phone call. You 3 bitches are going to jail. Number 15, top 15. Here we go. And just like I said, it's completely different than my 80s horror, my 50 horror movies. But this is a representation of the 80s that is the most important horror representation of the 80s. It is Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th. Yeah, you had Halloween in 78, so we're going to take all the credit, Friday the 13th being the ultimate slasher film. Give us a little bit of blood and kind of ingenious ways to kill someone, and you've got a genre. And even Victor Crowley nowadays are still coming up with inventive ways to kill teenagers. With boobies.
It's an important film.
Very important to the 80s. Important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm representing Freddie here. And
Right.
that 70s show.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there were other movies before Friday the 13th that might have started it all for people, but
Black Christmas, Peeping Tom, Psycho.
Halloween even in the late 70s, but nothing was better than Friday the 13th, knowing at the end that Jason might be alive, and then part 2 starts and he is, and then forget about it, man. That was just awesome.
Yep. Incredible.
Yep. And the music. Some of the greatest movie music ever written.
Betsy Palmer doesn't get enough credit, or Pamela Voorhees doesn't get enough credit as being a superb serial killer. She should be on the list. Her son gets all the credit. She had motive, she had reason, and she was crazy. Crazy enough to know not to die, to keep coming after you. That's what's next. You make a reboot. Pamela Voorhees comes back from the dead.
My number 15, I don't know if this is on your list or not. The Princess Bride. Inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
The Princess Bride, number 15, directed by Rob Reiner. His first movie that he directed. An absolute classic. The Princess Bride is the perfect movie from beginning to end. Perfectly told by the grandpa to the grandson, and then, you know, you see the events unfold. And come on, that movie right there is one of the most classic ever. Was it in your top 100?
I doubt it.
God damn it. The Princess Bride is amazing.
I missed the boat. The boat left and I wasn't on that boat.
So
I don't know
yes,
what I was doing then.
so yes, it is a romantic, sweeping girl in distress, damsel in distress with castles, and yeah, so exactly the way the movie's presented in the movie, where the little boy does not want to hear this story, and then he ends up getting hooked. That's what happened when I watched it. I didn't think I'd like it, and it ended up being awesome. So that's fucked up that you don't have that on you. Inconceivable.
It is.
Well, the sword fighting scene between Mandy Patinkin and Carrie
Yes.
is awesome, phenomenal. I loved it. I loved the choreographed dance, and then Mandy Patinkin deserved the Academy Award recognition for that performance, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I got to say about it. There you go. The Princess Bride, my number 15. What's your number 14?
Was that Rob Reiner?
Yeah.
I worked with him. I worked with Kelly Ellis too. Guy number 14? Of course, you know what we're talking about. Tootsie.
That's unbelievable.
Is it on your list?
It's not. We only have 14 left. Yes, it's on my list.
Dustin Hoffman, one of the greatest performances, lead actor ever in a film.
Yes.
Definitely comedic.
My favorite performance ever. Lead.
Dabney Coleman once again. Boy, he just keeps popping up.
Because he's awesome.
Jessica Lange, who won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, even though we both agreed Terry Garr should have won that year.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in this movie, and this is the performance. The best. Bill Murray's in this movie as the roommate. It's a very small role.
And George Gaines.
Of Police Academy fame.
I want you. I've always wanted you.
Won't Bill be jealous?
Gina Davis was in it too.
Dustin Hoffman's a struggling actor who teaches acting. Every actor I know teaches acting.
But he's stubborn and he's hard to work with, and he doesn't want to do what the director tells him to do because he has a brain and common sense. And it's like, I was a juicy stand-up tomato.
So sexy. How's he supposed to stand up, George?
You just do what the director says, man.
Just do it.
George was his agent, played by Sidney Pollack, who directed the movie.
Brilliantly directed movie.
And Dustin Hoffman's best friend Terry Garr was trying out for a soap opera, and she didn't get the part. And he decided to dress up like a woman and try out, and he got the part.
That's just what they were looking for, the kind of asshole that he was.
Yep.
They needed that in a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has to put on this persona for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And it gets complicated.
His contract gets picked up, and he's going to be on there another year, and he can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Classic movie.
Tootsie.
Tootsie. And if you've never seen Tootsie, you are missing out, because Dustin Hoffman kills it in that. Just unbelievable.
Can you pull back far enough to make her look attractive? What do you think about Cleveland? Getting up close, not too close. I never do. I can't see Dustin Hoffman in the role. I still don't. Till he takes the makeup off and everything, and then you realize it's Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, that's true. He makes such a weird looking woman, but he pulls it off so good with that southern accent.
Well, yes. 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 Yes.
I love that movie.
Tootsie. Number 14.
My number 14 is a movie you've already mentioned before, An American Werewolf in London. Dang, dang, dang. That was on our top 50 80s horrors, of course.
Yeah, it was in the top 10.
One of the greatest horror movies of the 80s. It's my favorite werewolf movie. It's my number 14. We talked about it in the other video. Griffin Dunn and whoever.
John James Norton.
John Norton. Is that his name, really?
James Norton.
James, okay, whatever. One hit wonder.
He was a pepper. He was be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper.
And the English chick, don't know her name. Yeah, she was a merciful Jesus. I thought Griffin Dunn stole the show. I love that dynamic where the ghost of the victims would come back and yeah, he was actually a pretty scary part of it. It would look so good, the flesh rotting from scene to scene. And then Griffin Dunn would start talking and relax the tension, like, oh. Which is exactly what I guess you would do if your best friend was coming back and telling
You're
you.
hurting my feelings.
Excellent movie. An American Werewolf in London. What is your evil number 13?
Number 13. Arnold makes a comeback. The Predator.
That was my number 26.
Exactly 13. Oh. Written by Shane Black. Arnold, his military crew, Governor Arnold and Governor Jesse Ventura go after a monster, and Carl Weathers, and everybody dies except for a couple people. And it's Arnold versus the Predator. You one ugly motherfucker. Yeah, he is. And it's a really good action movie and sci-fi if you don't like horror. So it's not really horror. They do have some horrific scenes of skinned bodies hanging up, but it's an action movie. Mm-hmm. You'll have fun with it. It screams 80s. John McTiernan, who was at one point the greatest 80s director. Him and John Badham. Man, could do no wrong. Yeah, it's like age 14 for me or something. I look back at life.
Yep. The Predator, pardon me.
13.
My number 13 is Evil Dead 2.
Dead by Dawn.
Yep. And you mentioned that, and of course that's very high up on our 80s horror movies lists.
Yeah, I had that one higher on my horror list than Predator.
And and I kind of chimed in when you mentioned it in the last video, but you guys all know Evil Dead 2. It's the classic. It's the one that
Who's laughing now?
makes all of the other movies relevant, in my opinion. I know it's just a different telling of Evil Dead, really, but other than that, classic. Doesn't get any better than Bruce Campbell as Ashley Williams.
Slashy Ashy. Or Ashy Slashy. Ashley Joanna Williams. Now you know what the J stands for. We shared that already in another video.
That's right. Evil Dead 2.
You have to watch Ash vs. Evil Dead to know that fun fact.
Yeah, Ash vs. Evil Dead was absolutely imperative to the lore, if you want to continue that. I wish Stars would have continued that. What is your number 12?
We still got Lee Majors as Ash's dad, and that was excellent. And then they'll bring him back in the second season or third season. Brilliant. What number? Number 12?
Yeah.
Ghostbusters! It's something strange in your neighborhood. Want a new job? Want a warm milkshake? Want a warm be up all night? Want a warm maybe sleep all day?
It's number 10 on my list, actually.
All right. Directed by?
Ivan Reitman.
Whose son Jason Reitman is going to be telling us the third installment of Ghostbusters.
Which would be excellent. They've been working on this thing, sort of.
Without Howard Ramis, though.
You would think Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd would have already had an idea in place, you know.
Right.
So,
Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Hal Ramis are three friends who work at an institution or a university of paranormal. They get kicked out. They have to prove paranormal that ghosts exist. Then ghosts really do pop up. They kind of get accused of causing the problem, but they've got some busting to do in New York City. So they get Ernie Hudson to come along, and he joins them in the sequel.
Annie Potts and Rick Moranis.
They get together in the sequel. A lot of hate on the sequel nowadays, but we all remember they belong together, and they wouldn't have gotten together if it wouldn't have been for the second movie.
I was fine with the second movie.
Me too. Sigourney Weaver, find a way to bring her back. It's just the ultimate 80s movie. It's fun. It's action. It's ultimate action comedy.
Yeah, very 80s.
We need those movies.
Yeah, it's number 10 on my list. It's high up there. It's perfect example of the 80s. What a great fun movie is. Like a summer blockbuster that actually works.
He says Mother Puss Bucket in it. And I say Mother Puss Bucket all the time. And people look at me like I'm crazy. It's like, if you've never seen Ghostbusters before, yeah. Why I remember that line, I don't know. Because it's so strange. Mother Puss Bucket. All-time Bill Murray, one of my all-time favorite quotes.
My number 12 is a movie you've mentioned already. Escape from New York.
Collectively, we've got a good top 50 here.
Escape from New York is the best movie John Carpenter did, for all you Halloween fans out there. Except for The Thing, which I haven't mentioned yet. But I think they're neck and neck. Escape from New York, Kurt Russell, Harry Dean Stanton, Adrienne Barbeau. What's his name that drove the cab?
Ernest Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine. And then Isaac Hayes. Yeah. And the president was Donald Pleasance, of course, since it's John Carpenter.
You're the Duke.
You're the Duke. You're number one. That is such an awesome movie. The sound effects, the music, it's the best music Carpenter did. I fucking love that music.
Yeah.
And
playing with myself. Going in.
I say that every other week. What are you doing? Playing with myself. I'm going in. Oh, good shit. Harry Dean Stanton. impeccable. That nervousness and oh yeah, good stuff. And that weird dude with the hair.
Yeah, what was that?
That was the entourage. And then, of course, the big battle in the cage at the end, which they tried to emulate and Escape from L.A. and with the basketball game. It didn't quite feel the same. You know, but
the movie's pretty good.
beating yourself up in a ring with, you know, is different than let's shoot some hoops and then go surfing. But it did have Bruce Campbell in it, the sequel. But anyway, that's Escape from New York. That's my number 12. Right? 12?
Yep.
All right, what's your number 11?
Heathers.
Heathers was way down my list in the last video. So, Fuck Me Gently with a Chainsaw.
Fuck Me Gently with a Chainsaw. The last best script of the 80s. I was a senior.
I wonder who wrote and directed that. You probably know. Michael Lehman?
Michael Lehman, but it was written by somebody else.
Okay.
I want to say Daniel Petrie, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, Heathers. So there are these three girls. They're called Heather. They're each called Heather. They're all best friends. And they have Veronica, who's played by Winona Ryder. They just kind of treat her like a third wheel. And then a new kid comes to school, JD, played by Christian Slater. And he's like, you know, if you hate these people so much, why don't you just kill them? And then ensues hilarity of the black comedy sort. When people start dying and, you know, am I going to Harvard or hell? I don't know whether to send my SAT scores to Stanford or San Quentin. Heathers is really one of the best soundtracks. Even though, according to the Mandela Effect, now when you ask Publishers Clearinghouse if Ed McMahon was ever one of their sponsors, they will tell you no, that never happened. And it was in this movie. And the day that Ed What's-His-Face brings you the check, but they said it didn't happen. That never happened.
Right.
That's just a fun fact. Watch that movie. It's still in the movie. I'm neither here nor there. Watch Heathers. It's one of the funniest movies ever.
It is.
I love my dead gay son.
It is an incredible movie. It is funny. It's dark, and just hilarious.
Just might have to watch it a couple of times because Shannon Doherty, who's in it, left the theater because she did not know she was in a comedy. Even though one of her lines was, "Why are you pulling my dick?" She got up crying and left the theater. She didn't know she was a part of a comedy.
Really?
Yeah. She was in the TV series, though.
It's weird.
She played JD's mom because his mom died when he was really young. So she was really young, even though she's not young.
My number 11 is dum 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 dum. Is Raiders of the Lost Ark on your list?
It's a little higher up.
Okay, so that is my number 11. Directed by Steven Spielberg. The greatest action editing ever that everything else tried to emulate after that. And of course they were emulating old westerns and stuff. And how it all comes full circle. And of course the Nazis were the worst bad guys ever. And Steven Spielberg's not going to put up with it. And Harrison Ford was already famous for playing Han Solo. Then he takes over this character of Indiana Jones and turns that into a franchise. And then he ended up being, what's his name, from Clear and Present Danger for 3 or 4 movies.
Jack Ryan.
I mean, Harrison Ford's the man, you know. Personally, I like Han Solo better, but Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the greatest action movies of all time.
Junior. It is. It's higher up on my list.
So let's get into our top 10.
Top 10!
The 10 best movies of the 80s, any genre, and go.
Bum 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 bum. You just mentioned it, 9 to 5. It's just way up there. They all partake in weed and talk about how they take out their boss. Then they end up accidentally taking out their boss. Then they have to keep the boss quiet because they accidentally took out their boss.
Right.
There's a short in the trunk.
There's a short in the trunk. Oh, good Lord. Oh, man.
Violet, we got to do something. Violet Newstead, please hold. I'm not even. I'm not. It's just. Yeah, it's a movie that comes to mind every day. At some point.
If there are people out there that have never seen it, and you see the cover and the three girls, and you're like, okay, I'm not doing this. It's a black comedy, and it's freaking hilarious. And check it out. There's, if you work, you're gonna relate to it.
He's a no good, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot. What did I miss? It's the ultimate man. And any woman should love watching this movie and how they get even with the man in the workplace.
Sexist, egotistical.
Yeah, forget sexist.
Lying, hypocritical bigot.
No good, sexist, egotistical, lying, hypocritical bigot.
Nobody's perfect.
No, nobody's perfect. That's brilliant. We talked about it before.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, all three women imagine killing the boss. And you get the whole scenario of how they would all go about doing it. And then one by one, their fantasies start to blend into reality, and the next thing you know, they're having to break the law, and that's just hilarious because they each show in reality what they were fantasizing, and they're able to pull it off. So yay, 9 to 5. You have to watch it. Ignore the cover and watch it. Damn it. That was your number 10.
Yeah.
My number 10 is Ghostbusters, and we already talked about that. So, number 9.
There's something strange. 9?
9.
Number 9. The highest David Lynch movie on my list. The Elephant Man. Holmes the Elephant.
Yep.
Starring Anthony Hopkins and John Hurt as John Merrick, the Elephant Man. Based on a story of a man who's disfigured, who's being mistreated at a circus, and a doctor takes him in and finds out that he is very much a human being, and he deserves better than what he's... I'm not an animal!
So the queen herself makes the hospital take him in on a permanent basis, and he's found a home with new friends, and then he tries to be human. Too human, and dies.
Right, through the whole movie. It's a sad movie. It's black and white, and it's not reminiscent of the 80s. It's the highest movie on my list that doesn't remind me of the 80s. It really is 1980. It does remind me of the 70s. It reminds me David Lynch could do so much.
And of course the film itself is set in Victorian England in like whatever the 1800s or not early 1900s.
Whenever he lived,
So yeah, it is a weird, out of time movie.
It's one of the best biographies, a movie based on a person that you should watch. And then it's if you like pets and you like PETA and all that, watch this movie and you'll cry. Find something to cry about. The humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I often think about John Joseph Merrick when I'm thinking I'm having a bad day, and I mean even people who get who fall subject to racism or sexism or anything like that, it's like, okay, well, at least you don't look like John Joseph Merrick, okay? That's what I keep thinking, like, you just don't have it that bad. So that movie is the saddest movie ever. It really is. I've never cried from beginning to end at anything, but I did at that. And I still do when I watch it. It is awesome.
Not to scare you off.
No, it's great. It's a little bit higher up on my list.
Anthony Hopkins deserves an Academy Award nomination too for his performance, but John Hurt was so awesome as John Merrick. They forgot Anthony Hopkins was holding his own.
That was your number 9?
Number 9.
My number 9 is Tootsie, which we talked about earlier. Like I said, my favorite lead actor performance ever. And that great Stephen Bishop song in the middle. All of my life. Yeah, great movie.
Charles Durning too, as Jessica Lange's dad. Great performance.
So if you've never seen 9 to 5 or Tootsie because of the cover, ignore that damn cover and watch it.
Well, yes.
What's your number 8?
Yes. Number 8. Ocho. Now we're talking another John McTiernan classic. The highest Christmas movie on my list. Die Hard. Number 8.
That's like a cockroach, right?
I could not bring myself to lower it any lower. It is it is the perfect action movie. The perfect hero. You got your everyday man. Come out to the coast. And then Bruce Willis. Probably the best part about it is he went back and did a couple of more seasons of Moonlighting after he started to be a major movie success. He was a hard-working man. I don't care if y'all think he sold out. You give the performance you do in something like Death Becomes Her, and then you get ridiculed and the movie doesn't make money, and why try after that? He was brilliant. So I don't care if he sells out. Sell out to Nicolas Cage. Do it, because you owned it. Die Hard. Easily the most likable villain. Even though you know you're not supposed to like this guy, but Alan Rickman brings it. And Bonnie Bedelia, what can you do?
Okay. Die Hard is not on my list.
Nakatomi Plaza. No shoes, broken glass on the floor. Get from point A to point B. That's just great. Intense. John McTiernan was top of his game.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Lone Ranger.
My number 8 is Zucker Abrams. Classic. Airplane. I know that's on your list, right? Coming up. Yep, maybe if you're not into that kind of comedy, then you won't have it on your list, but you should.
Yes, you should.
Airplane's one of the most quotable movies ever. It's one of those classic. It's almost like a spoof of the Airport movies, right?
Airport came out in 1970, and Airport 75 came out in 1975. That one was the one. Airport, the first one in 1970, was the one with the bomb in the briefcase, even though that happened in Airplane too.
Right.
I don't know if the fish and the who got poisoned, I don't know if that was in 75 or not. The 75 was with Charlton Heston, and they drop him onto the plane from another plane. And Karen Black flies the plane.
Remember that time we were on acid? You took off all your clothes. I don't remember what she said. You thought you were Jesus Christ. You thought you could fly. What a bummer. No shit. What the fuck, man?
I'm going to wait and talk about Airplane when it comes up on my list later.
Okay, let's go on to number 7.
Number 7. I totally forgot to tell everybody what Die Hard was about, but
I don't need to know.
Number 7. You mentioned it in the last video. Shame on you. I didn't give you flack. Poltergeist, number 7. Representing the 80s like a champ. With Steven Toby Hooper Spielberg directing. Craig T. Nelson, Joe Beth Williams. They play a suburban couple with their 3 children and a house that happens to be haunted. And their daughter gets sucked into the closet, into the TV, and then they have to find her. Out of Meg's ass, if you've seen Family Guy. The rope came out of Meg's ass. Peter's like, whoa, wait a minute. He was playing golf. Golf balls were flying out of Meg's ass. He pops his head out. Looks like I took the wrong turn at Albuquerque. Poltergeist, yeah, it's a horror movie. But it's a drama. It's a suspenseful, thrilling, supernatural drama. And kind of action-packed.
What a great soundtrack.
Yeah. They're here. Poltergeist. Quite possibly the second highest horror movie on my list. Quite possibly not.
My number 7 is David Lynch's The Elephant Man.
Holmes the Elephant.
And we just finished talking about that one.
Yes, we did.
It's a great movie. You have to see it if you haven't. I'm sure you have. If you haven't, you should.
Pulls at the heartstrings.
And it's brilliantly made in every way. So, what is your number 6?
Number 6 is the aforementioned Raiders of the Lost Ark. Such a Lawrence Kasdan. Once again, scribing a miracle. Alfred Molina was in that. And Karen Allen. We could always do with more movies with Karen Allen. And she was awesome. Indy! And Indiana just gets himself into trouble. He's a history professor who goes searching, who's an archaeologist on the side. But he's got to make ends meet. It's like those actors that teach acting class, you know. He teaches at a university to pay the bills.
But then he goes treasure hunting.
And he goes treasure hunting on the weekend, and he's good with a whip. And he likes his fedora. It's really, he's the ultimate hero, isn't he? Harrison Ford, Raiders of the Lost Ark. The highest Steven Spielberg movie on my list. Yes. Yes.
Number 6. My number 6 is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
We're going to pile up. Car wreck coming up here. We were so different. Now we're just going to crash into one.
Almost everything I've mentioned in my list, you mentioned in the last video.
Well, it's my number 5, which is next, so we can both talk about The Shining right now.
I've done a video under the films that scared me on this channel about The Shining. I talked about my personal visit to the Stanley Hotel, which is where Stephen King stayed when he wrote this, inspired by the fact that he put his luggage in the hotel room, and then when he came back, all his clothes were out of the suitcase and put in the drawers. And there was no help. No one was there. Yeah, that probably freaked him out enough to say, this place is fucking haunted. But anyway, the real movie, of course, I'm not going to talk about it. I've already talked about it in my breakdown.
Jack Nicholson's a recovering alcoholic who takes his family to cater to this hotel off-season, which means long months locked up, and you could get cabin fever, and he starts to descend into madness. Or is it the hotel, which could be haunted? His wife doesn't want to stick around to find out anyway. She hadn't forgiven him since he broke the kid's arm just yanking it. He was trying to get him away from the papers. Give me a nip of the dog, or the hair of the dog that bit me. Yeah. And he ends up getting fake drunk. There was nothing really there, but he was drinking. I don't know. Right. The novel and the movie are different. They're equally great. I think I like the movie better than the novel. Sue me.
Me too. That's one of Kubrick's best films.
Stephen King is my favorite author. It just happens to not be one of my favorites.
And it's one of Jack's best performances, of course.
Ever. Stanley Kubrick, responsible for the way Shelley Duvall looks in everything she does. Popeye did not make my list.
So The Shining was your number 5.
See?
As we break into our top 5. My number 5 is James Cameron's Aliens.
That happens to be my number 4.
Well, I'll be a son of a bitch.
No, might as well talk about it.
So yeah, Alien was different than Aliens. Alien, the 70s movie, and Sigourney Weaver was the only one with common sense on the whole goddamn ship. No, I'm not going to let you on. That's going to just, yeah, okay. So she survives, and of course, and then this one starts, and they've got the military is going to go check out some installation because they're having issues with the settlers that are supposed to be there, and the colonists, and there may be a xenomorph. Is that what you call it?
Xenomorph
Issue.
may be involved.
And they'd like for her to go along. Like, are you out of your freaking mind? But she went anyway because she's suffering and having nightmares every night anyway. So she goes, and instead of having one monster on a ship, you've got a whole gaggle of them fuckers
On a planet.
And the military's there with a bunch of weapons so they can have a fair fight.
Because James Cameron loves his guns.
It's the Titanic. Put a gun in it.
Put a gun in it. Hey, he set up these big guns that shot him all through the movie that they deleted. It was one of the deleted scenes. One of the better restored, like, director's cut with all the deleted scenes in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoy the director's cut.
Me too.
Especially when you see Newt's family. You never saw them in the theatrical cut.
Or Timmy, her brother. Yeah, that was my number 4. Just action packed. We went to the theater. We got what we wanted.
They're all dead. Can I go now? They mostly come out at night. Mostly.
Game over, man. Game over. Put her in charge.
That was your number 4.
Yes, it was.
My number 4 is John Carpenter's The Thing. That was my winner for greatest 80s horror movie, and it's number 4 on my list of greatest 80s movies.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it a lot already, so I'm not going to go into it. Other than that, what it lacks from music-wise, where Escape from New York was shining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, The Thing. Overall, it has more of a horror quality to it. I like horror movies better than those gritty Assault on Precinct 13 kind of movies, which is what Escape from New York can be at times. But Escape from New York was brilliant. Okay, The Thing. That's my number 4. What's your number 3?
Mm-hmm.
We might be similar here.
Number 3. Star Wars Episode 5. The Empire Strikes Back. Darth Vader, the story of Luke Skywalker, who wants nothing more than to get off his planet and go help the rebellion fight the Empire. And lo and behold, he gets his wish. And it's a space opera. I think everybody's heard of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, you guys all know the story.
It is the best Star Wars movie.
Luke has to train with the Jedi Master. And then
Yoda.
and he's running around with a Muppet in the swamp. And then we go back to the real action where it's Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon with Princess Leia and C-3PO and R2-D2 is there too, right? And Chewbacca. And they go inside a big worm's mouth for a while. while, and then Luke finishes his training. Not really, but there's another hope. And then Han goes to Cloud City, and then Luke shows up to try to save him, and then they have to save Luke, and the Empire wins for the moment.
And Lando's a traitor.
But he's really a friend. That's my number 2, actually.
Why was 5 afraid of 6?
Why was 5 afraid of 6?
Why was 6 afraid of 7?
Why was 6 afraid of 7? Okay.
Because 6, 7, 8.
Christ. You ruined that.
Slaughtered it.
Because 6, 7, 8.
It's supposed to be because 7, 8, 9. That's
okay.
Remember that joke? But because of the way Yoda talks.
Yeah,
Because 6, 7, 8.
And there's a lot of numbers there. I can see why it would confuse you.
Yeah, I'm totally confused now.
All right. Empire Strikes Back is your number 3. That's my number 2.
Hmm.
I'm assuming my number 3 is going to be in your top 2.
Yes?
My number 3 is Robert Zemeckis' awesome, almost said Empire Strikes Back, Back to the Future. So, my number 3 is Back to the Future. Is that your number 2 or your number 1?
We'll have to see.
Oh, shit, it says number 1, damn it. Okay, we'll hold off on talking about Back to the Future, because I know that that's there.
It's got to be there.
What's your number 2?
Surely you can't be serious.
Airplane, wow. So Airplane was my number 8, and that's your number 2.
Airplane is the representation of the 80s. No comedy that came out after 1980s. Airplane. They all owe their debt. A debt of gratitude to Airplane.
That's right.
For saying you can do it.
There is only one river.
There's only one sea. Airplane is a mockery of airplane movies, where a guy who's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder after flying in a failed attempt, the bombs over
Goddamn.
Rio Grande.
Rio Grande.
Over Macho Grande. I'll never be over Macho Grande.
Macho Grande. Fucking movie's so funny.
And the pilots get sick, and he has to fly the plane. Then land in Chicago, where disco lives forever. It is slapstick. It is so stupid, and don't get it confused with the second one, which is really stupid. It's still pretty good, but that's the one where the cat and the dog luggage are barking at each other.
That guy wrote Grease 2, by the way.
Yeah, I mean it's worth mentioning. And Dempsey.
We are one.
It's got Staying Alive and a great disco scene with Girl Scout fighting over their cookies.
That you're still talking about 2?
No, that's
Okay, that's 1. That bar fight scene in 1 is some of the greatest direction you'll ever see. It's absolutely phenomenal. When those girls were fighting, the actors, along with that loud special effect of every hit, it was absolutely amazing. I've never seen a fight scene that well executed, and it was 2 women doing it. And I'm like, this is how they all should be, right? But when he starts dancing and the smoke's there, and he must be bouncing on something or sitting on something because his feet are doing this number while it's absolutely amazing. There was no visual effects back then. And, yeah. And
the way his drinking problem, he'd splash on his face because he had a drinking problem.
I love that movie.
Are you a doctor? He's got stethoscopes in his ear. Yes, I'm a doctor.
As a matter of fact, I am.
Leslie Nielsen, they brought him out, told him to be deadpan, just deliver your lines straight, and started a career for him.
Right. But he's still a good, serious actor, though. As he proved in Nuts, which I mentioned in the last video.
Yes. Peter Graves. Peter Graves tells the story of taking his wife to see Airplane and just knowing some of the lines he delivered and not knowing how she was going to take it. So, oh my.
Oh, and in Creep Show, his Leslie Nielsen in Creep Show.
Yeah.
The murderer.
He was menacing in that one.
So, okay, my number 2 is Empire Strikes Back, which we talked about already. So,
My number 1,
your number 1 must
Back to the Future.
be
The greatest 80s movie ever.
I can't argue with that.
Michael J. Fox. Tour de Force. Christopher Lloyd. Boy, those were the days.
Michael J. Fox owned that movie. Every shot, every single second of that film. If the camera wasn't right on him, it was on the person he was in the room talking to, because he was in every fucking shot.
Michael J. Fox plays Marty, and he's a high school kid who happens to be best friends with this doctor who creates a time machine out of a DeLorean. And then he ends up taking the DeLorean back in time and accidentally runs into his parents. And now he's got to fix the past and then try to get back to the future.
Yes, which is tough to do because the car needs 1.21 gigawatts.
Yes. Kind of hard to create that in the past.
But we knew exactly where the lightning was going to strike. Man, that was an intense scene. That whole movie is incredible. That is like a tour de force. I mean, that's one of those where most movies try to do it now and they can't, where you build up momentum and there's a goal to reach. And right before you cross the goal line, they throw one more thing at you to trip you up. And what I like to call this creative drama, they had to throw this creative drama at the end to make it. No, but Back to the Future was full of that. I mean, he just had to go from point A to point B, and he just kept tripping up, and it worked. And not very many movies do that. Not effectively. Maybe I'm just comparing them to this brilliance. Robert Zemeckis, right after Romancing the Stone, turns in this movie, which is one of the greatest films of all time.
It's a Spielberg-produced movie. There's a lot of Spielberg in my top 10, but mostly producing.
Right. Yeah, he owned the 80s as far as producing.
Poltergeist. He directed Raiders. Yep. I'm sure he had a hand in The Empire Strikes Back, but Back to the Future for sure. So, what is your number 1?
So tell everybody your top 5 now, so they can know your top 5.
My top 5, The Shining, Aliens, The Empire Strikes Back, Airplane, and Back to the Future.
Excellent. Excellent.
There is no comedy better than Airplane. Before
1980.
Well, I was saying that about Dr. Strangelove. It's the best comedy before 1980.
Airplane's a classic. All right, my top 5. Aliens. Number 4, The Thing. Number 3, Back to the Future. Number 2, The Empire Strikes Back. And number 1, your number 40 or something, Blue Velvet. My number 1 80s movie is Blue Velvet. It was the most talked about movie of the decade, so the box said. And in my list of all-time favorite movies, it's number 4, and it's the first movie on my all-time favorite list of movies. That's an 80s movie. So while it didn't define the 80s for me, it does define David Lynch as a pre-Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is always this mix between Blue Velvet and like Hill Street Blues or something. So if you guys haven't seen Blue Velvet, you should. A kid that went to college has to come back home because his dad fell ill. He has to help around the house and take care of the hardware store. But other than that, he didn't have much to do. And while he's visiting his dad at the hospital, he's throwing rocks at a bottle, Twin Peaks, and he finds a severed human ear, which he brings to the detective and the police.
That's an ear, all right.
And he happens to live in the same neighborhood with the detective. whose daughter's the same age as him, and he went to school with her, and the daughter overhears some stuff about the case, and little Jeffrey has to get curious. Whether he's a detective or a pervert, it's for him to know and for us to find out. And then he ends up getting neck deep in that shit. So there you go. That's Blue Velvet.
And he gets knee deep sometimes too.
It's absolutely shocking what happens in that movie, and it's not to be missed. I'm not going to break it down anymore. You guys are subscribers of Rosenfield 10. You know what Blue Velvet is. And if you don't, rent it. So there you go. That's our top 50. Best movies of the 80s.
That's some good stuff there. A lot of stuff we didn't mention.
Yeah, there's a few. You know, we honorable mentions like Gremlins and The Goonies and stuff like that.
Then we only had about 4 or 5 that were the same in the top 25. I mean, we had similar ones in the 26 through 50, but I guess people could just watch this video and get a good heaping helping of 80s.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
If we mention it, you need to go see it. If you haven't seen it.
These are the best movies of the 80s. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos like this. I'm Joe.
I'm James.
And this has been the top 50 movies of the 80s.
Great Scott.
Part 2. And like and subscribe and all that stuff. And we'll see you in the trees. Bye.